tuning in via Twitter/Periscope, Facebook Live, or YouTube live stream. Also, this is the show where I get to talk about everything I normally don't get to talk about in my regular sports podcast, Barbershop Sports Talk, which you guys can all find on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, the whole 9 yards there. A podcast I released, had my good friend on, Silas Garrison, and we talked about HBCUs with the black athletes going to those schools. We also delved into the Utah Jazz, their disrespect with Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert not being the last two picks of the NBA All-Star game. Also talked about some teams in the league Silas doesn't respect and respects. And at the end, we kind of got into some Tom Brady contract extension talk, and we talked about Micah Hyde of the Buffalo Bills. So definitely check out that podcast. So here's what we have today. Dak Prescott signed a new deal. You have NBA rumors going on, Lakers, Warriors, Damian Lillard versus Paul George. And Bob Stoops is now at Fox, replacing Urban Meyer. So first, let's start with this. Congratulations to Dak Prescott. 4 years, $160 million deal. In 4 years. The Dallas Cowboys finally got it done. They finally got it done. And I do want to say this. I want to say, Dak, congratulations. Obviously, this is a guy that is the consummate professional. Does everything that you want your quarterback to do. Doesn't complain. Doesn't leak stuff. Works hard. Was a 4th-round pick. Worked his way up. There was always talk, and it always seemed like there was this uneasy nature, like the Cowboys didn't believe in him, right? They drafted him in the 4th round. He's playing so good, and there's always like, Tony Romo can come back. Tony Romo can come back. Tony Romo can come back. And it's like they pay Zeke, right? They pay Zeke Elliott, and they pay Amari Cooper. They pay Jalen Smith, and now it's Dak's turn. He is the best player on this team. He is the leader of this team. This team goes as he goes. You saw how their offense deteriorated after he had that horrific ankle injury, and I think this stays true to this. Jerry Jones takes care of his players, for better or for worse. For better or for worse. We saw it with Tony Romo. We saw it with Michael Irvin. We even saw it with the Des Bryant for a long time. Like even Ezekiel Elliott. Jerry Jones will take care of his guys. So what he's doing for Dak is no different. I think an interesting thing, an interesting caveat that I want everybody to focus on is there is a no trade clause in this contract. We're seeing quarterbacks who have no trade clauses. I believe Russell Wilson has one. I also know Deshaun Watson has one. And we've seen now when trades get requested later, because it seems like the NFL quarterback thinks they're the NBA superstar, and no trade clause make it hard for the team to move you. So I thought that was an interesting little caveat that was done. So next, let's get to this. The Golden State Warriors have interest in Victor Oladipo. They want a Andre Iguodala, Sean Livingston type player to come off their bench, a ball handler of that caliber, that played key roles for their defending championship teams that won 3 titles. I do not think I don't think Oladipo is that guy. I think Oladipo, first of all, wants to be a starter. I don't think Oladipo wants to be a bench player, because in this situation, I mean, he's like, 6'3", 6'4"? Obviously, when Clay comes back, it's going to be Steph at the 1, Clay at the 2. I don't see Oladipo being that third guy. Livingston was a guy who was okay playing 20 minutes a game. Iguodala was closer to 30 minutes. He was more like a starter, really, during those times. But I don't think where Oladipo is at his career, he's already been a guy that's been an all-NBA player, right? A couple of years ago with the Pacers. I think he's had that taste, but I think that's the level he wants to get back to. So I don't think this move necessarily works. But I do think it's interesting, Golden State. They're trying to replicate that magic they had pre-Kevin Durant. Okay, so next up, the Los Angeles Lakers. They are interested in Andre Drummond. Obviously, they've been looking at, quote-unquote, for a more athletic big, the kind of type of production that JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard did for the team last year. Also, the Nets are in this. The Lakers are not interested in DeMarcus Cousins, who, when you look at this, just do a talent perspective, he's probably better than DeMarcus Cousins. DeMarcus Cousins is probably better than Andre Drummond. Better rebounder, passer, but I just think where they're both at their career, it makes more sense for Drummond. But here's the thing. What you need to realize. I think if Drummond goes to the Nets, he's going to start over DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin. He's going to get minutes for both those guys. If he goes to the Lakers, are we sure he's going to start over Marc Gasol? And then if he does, once it's healthy, which I think you should assume that's going to happen, listen, AD is going to be going to playing the center. When it's do or die and they need these minutes in the playoffs, Anthony Davis will be at the center. Also, Montrezl Harrell's going to be getting a lot of these minutes. Like, to me, it just doesn't. It's like we need this big, active big who can rebound, do all the stuff, who can switch. That's Anthony Davis, playoff time. That's Anthony Davis, playoff time. So I don't understand really the need for that. Next up, Damian Lillard and Paul George. They've quote-unquote had beef since Damian Lillard shot a three-point shot in Paul George's face, sent the Oklahoma City Thunder home. He sent Russell Westbrook home, and he sent Paul George home. And he said, "You guys know who I am." Paul George was asked about that because Paul George said, that's a bad shot. Made a tough contest. It's just a bad shot. And Paul George during the All-Star weekend. I just want to get this up. He was asked, and he said, the reporter asked, "So is that a bad shot?" And then Paul George said, "It's a great shot. Thumbs up." And then Damian Lillard says, life's too short to have beef. He's like, it's not that serious. But I just find it funny, the whole Dame versus Paul George, even when the whole Russell Westbrook thing was going on. Dame is a straight killer. Dame is a straight killer. Paul George knows. Paul George knows. Russell Westbrook knows. All these guys know. You can even see the little beef during the All-Star game. I don't know if you guys watched it, but with Damian Lillard and Stephen Curry, like, Dame is about that action, and that's what I love about Dame Lillard, Dame Dollar. And next up, lastly, Bob Stoops, former head coach of the Oklahoma Sooners, will replace Urban Meyer on the Fox pregame show. I think this is a good move by Fox. I don't know if Bob Stoops is going to be as entertaining as Urban Meyer was, but still a big-time college football coach nonetheless. I think what's going to be really interesting if Nick Saban retires, is Fox going to go after Nick Saban? That's going to be really interesting, too. And guys, put this in the comments. Would you guys want to see Nick Saban on TV? Do you think he'd be interesting? Do you think he'd be – because I know when you get these like guys like him and Bill Belichick, do you think they'd actually work on TV doing a pregame show? Or do you guys think, nah, But I think that would also be interesting, too. And that's all we have for this edition of Outside the Shop. Also, I posted a link to my YouTube channel. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please and thank you. And thank you, everybody, for tuning into this edition of Outside the Shop. Have a great day and God bless.